Welcome back to Unrendered. I'm Tony Regisford. I have with me Dr. Stoddard, Thorny Myers, and Dr. Gerald Thompson. We are into Energy Week, and we are looking at sustainable energy and the efficient use of energy. Dr. Thompson, my question to you at the end of the last segment was government policies in relation to providing incentives for private investors.
Before I talk on that, I want to say that government always has to show that they are also an early adopter of renewable energy. In Beckwith, they developed a new desalination plant that is now powered by solar energy.
Okay.
The government financial complex, within the next couple of months, we would be installing solar panels on the roof of that financial complex and feeding that into the grid. And a similar project is being planned through some other projects for the hospital and for the prison in Guyana. But in terms of attracting investors to what I would consider the single most important energy project that we can develop, that of geothermal, is something that we've been working on for quite some time. I must be honest with you, there have been a couple of efforts in the past that have not gone well. One of the things is that we needed to have had a clear policy. And secondly, through the OAS, we are developing legislation for the geothermal sector that will guide exactly some of the things that Dr. Stoddard talked about, exactly how this is going to be done, and what is the process by which we address the payback for that investor. Now, we've had some recent discussion with a very important entity that has probably been the only entity that's developed a geothermal plant in the United States last year. Recently, I was in Nicaragua. I didn't get to see one of their geothermal plants, but there are geothermal plants throughout the region. And Guadeloupe, Martinique has been one of those places that have done some very good job.
Right.
We see in Dominica, St. Kitts, but St. Vincent and the Grenadines want to go in this direction, and we feel that this is going to.
So you have in your policy clear-cut incentive measures that will attract people who want to invest.
We go through the usual things, the various tax incentives, being able to bring in the various tools, being able to sell electricity into the grid, and there would be through this new legislation that guidelines in terms of how that is done.
Let me ask you, and not breaking you straight, but suppose as a private individual I wanted to supply my farm, if I had a farm, with an alternative source of energy, and I was producing enough to sell back to the grid. I don't know if that's one of the things that Dr. Stoddard was talking about in terms of this net metering idea. What's in place for that now?
Well, we have
both on the question of my ability to sell back to the grid and also my cost of investing in such a system. How are you going to make it easy for me?
Well, we have an energy unit that will somewhat hold your hand and guide you in terms of how this is done. Now, clearly, we do not have money to give you.
Right.
And in this kind of environment, in financial climate, we may not be able to guarantee loans and so forth in that particular way. But depending on the nature of the project, there can be some public-private partnerships. There can be public-private partnership with Vinlec Sud decides that they want to partner with you. But I think that a number of things can be fashioned. But I believe that depending on the nature of the project, and we've seen projects coming through with respect to waste to energy. We've seen a number of individuals looking to put solar panels on their roofs, and those things are now allowed, and it's a matter of making the right approaches to the energy unit, to Vinlec, and I think that these things can be done.
So you mentioned that you can hold my hand, basically, in terms of giving me advice what I need to buy and so on. And this is important because is this thing happening haphazardly? Somebody says, hey, I just went on the internet, I saw a system, looks good, and I'm going to buy it to produce my own energy. Or me not having a clue, but knowing that I have a need, is there somewhere I can go to, sit down and say, help me with this? Do you have such a thing in place?
Well, we expect persons who are going to get into this like this to do their research, and through CARICOM, through other regional organizations, we can actually find you some of the expertise that you might be able to hire. We have a number of regional organizations that can assist with the right type of approach to any of the renewable energy. But I think we have seen a lot of persons who are not serious investors. They're there to talk, they're not serious, they don't really have this sort of financial backing and so to really get things done. So we are interested in persons who are very serious about moving forward.
So those are people on a larger scale. I was more or less addressing a domestic need, private house, that sort of thing.
Well, I'll tell you, we have recently donation of monies into what's called the SIDS-DOC project by the Danish. And this is a regional project, and we've been asked to submit 2 projects. One of those is in relation to addressing the low penetration of solar water heaters on our roofs. And, other islands in the Caribbean have a much higher penetration. This is something that we feel we can address. And persons may be able to get a small grant and so forth with respect to offsetting the cost of doing this. This project is yet to be fully developed, but I think you will see things like that.
So let's move in that direction. I have to move on in interest of time. Dr. Stoddard, the awareness of the whole idea of sustainable energy and efficient use of energy. What is CARICOM doing? Apart from this week of activities, how do you sustain that awareness across the region?
Okay, awareness is an ongoing exercise. We cannot start this week and end the activity there. It's going to take shape, and as we move forward, we would have to put a number of things in place and encourage member states to increase their level of awareness of the issue of energy, renewable energy, etc. Apart from the Energy Awareness Week, where there's a project, an OECS project called CSEP that has an energy awareness component to it. Now what this CSEP hopes to do is to reach out to the schools and to work with the teachers, to train the teachers about renewable energy and energy efficiency and all the rest of it. And you know, once you capture the attention of the students, then it transcends to the parents and to the rest of the society. So that project is ongoing. At the CARICOM Secretariat, the project I manage called the CREX project, Caribbean Renewable Energy Capacity Support Project. It has an awareness component to it too, where we are trying to do things like signage in important building. We are working with member states in developing awareness programs, different programs that what you would see in Energy Week. And also to look at what happened during Energy Week and to make changes so that it becomes an annual event. It also becomes a daily feature on the calendar of energy.
Right.
So there are a number of programs that are being developed, that are running at the moment, and it's an ongoing exercise. You cannot start today and end tomorrow, otherwise the message will be lost. And we want the message to resonate in the minds of people that energy is important, energy conservation is important, energy security is important, the whole issue of renewable energy, so that at the end of the day, the objective of an awareness program is to get people to understand the issues so that they can make wise choices.
Right.
And if you give somebody say $100 to buy a system for solar water heating, we do not want that person to go down to town and buy an electric water heater. You can install it in a couple minutes.
Right.
But it's going to drive your costs tremendously high.
Right, the ongoing costs.
Once you have the information, we expect you to say, okay, if I go to the bank and I invest in a say 80-gallon system of solar water heater, over time, I think that system might cost $5,000.
Right.
It's a lot of money up front, but over time,
It'll pay back for itself.
it would pay back for itself. So those are the sort of decisions we expect people with information to make, and that's the whole purpose of sensitizing the public about energy awareness.
Of course, we've concentrated here on Tony's provision of electricity as a single factor of consumption of energy. But Dr. Thompson, in the dying moments of this program, the whole question of fuel and the import bill that we sustain or we carry for fuel that is imported into this country in the transportation sector. I just want to touch briefly on that. Do you have policies in place, or do you have plans to penalize people who are not using fuel in an efficient way? In other words, people bringing in 6-liter vehicles when clearly it's a waste. So we've got just about 1 minute, and I want to take 30 seconds from you and get some wind up from Tony.
Well, it's a very sensitive area,
Yes.
but I think it's an area that we may certainly have to look at. I think there are a number of little things that one can do in relation to their cars, the weight of stuff you carry around, the tires and the carburetor and fuel injectors. We also have to start testing hybrid vehicles here in St. Vincent and really see how they stand up to our terrain, because we certainly can't invest in ethanol and those sort of the biofuels don't seem to be available for us here in St. Vincent as a viable option. So transport is always going to be an issue, and looking at what you've said is something.
So it's a work in progress for you. Tony, we've got 30 seconds. What do you?
Well, the issue, of course, VENEC as a
Yes.
company will continue to support the government in terms of its initiative to reduce energy costs in the country. Just to mention the importance of renewable energy. This month, our fuel surcharge is 48 cents. If we did not have our hydro, it would be 61 cents.
So you're thankful for the rain.
And I think we all must be thankful.
Dr. Stoddard,
Well,
10 seconds to
Yes,
give your final words.
I would also encourage the government to continue its programs of moving forward with renewable energy and sensitizing the people of the need for sustainable energy. Even though for some renewables the upfront cost is high, the initial outlay is high, but their benefits should be derived. You can have significant savings over time, and there are also environmental benefits. We cannot pay for the environmental benefits. We are a region with low-lying states, and the whole issue of global warming is going to affect us one day. When the sea level rise, it's going to take out many of our coastal areas. So we need to be aware of these issues, and there are tremendous scope to promote this renewable form of energy, and to look at other sectors like the transportation sector, the domestic household, and see how we can integrate those in our planning for reduced energy costs.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Thanks for coming on the program, and I wish you success with your Energy Week.
Thank you.
This is Unrendered. I'm Tony Regisford. Jomo Thomas is up next with Plain Talk.